Hi, my name is Steven and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking to you about thoughts from a 35-year-old, a millennial's look back at his life. I recently turned the dreaded age of 35 and let me tell you, a lot of changes are coming into my life. I'm not quite middle-aged yet, but I'm definitely starting to feel my years. But it's not just my body that's starting to feel the effects. My personality has slowly changed over time as well. I look back on my previous self and I realize that I'm a much different person than who I am now. I've grown mature and more confident than I ever thought I would in my life. This means that even though I might not have the youth of my yesteryear, I'm far more confident and capable of a person than I was before. And I could do things now because of my confidence that I couldn't do in my 20s. Things that I've learned in the past 15 years have definitely been a mixed bag, but I'm definitely more experienced because of it. Some things have definitely changed my life for the better, but other things have worsened my outlook for the future. So what did I learn about myself and what did I learn about my mid-30s? Let's find out. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. Although having just turned 35, it's just a number and there's really no big deal to it, what does matter is how I've changed in the last 17 years. I've really changed dramatically from when I graduated high school all those years ago. And back then, if I were to see myself as an old person, I could hardly relate to that person on the street. And as harsh as this may sound, I don't think I would become friends with my older self when I was in high school. And this is because I've grown so incredibly much over the past 17 years that I can hardly recognize the changes within myself. Coming out of high school, I was in a vastly different mindset than I am today, and it really shows in how I present myself to the world. I was about conquering the world and making my mark, but I was an incredibly shy and introverted person while doing so. And looking back on it, the energy and physicalness that I brought out into the world was amazing to me now that I look back on my younger self. I could sustain my energy and focus for a really long time when I was younger. And more critically, I was able to do this without burning out all the time. But I would have to say that this is balanced by my general ineffectiveness in getting things done at the time. Since I haven't yet cultivated my experience, a lot of things that I did took a lot more time than I do now. I might not be as fast or as focused as I once was, but I'm much more effective at getting things done. Age for me has given me a greater perspective about what we can and cannot achieve within our own lifetimes. Because when I graduated high school, I thought I could do everything and multiple things during one lifetime. Now I know that's just not the case. Some of the lessons I've learned has been very difficult for me to accept, my own mortality. But I take solace in the fact that everyone is like this. They realize their own mortality at some point in their lives. We are all growing older and maybe perhaps a little wiser at the same time. Here are my thoughts on being 35 years old. Number 1, optimism fades. I wish this wasn't true, but generally as you get older, your optimism fades over time. And generally, optimism fades into a more realistic assessment of what can be done. It's always going to be this way as you learn more about the world and its inherent limits. When you graduate high school, you have almost unlimited optimism because your future is ahead of you. You can do anything at that point. And you'll have a lot of people at graduation telling you you can do anything that you want whenever you want. And buoying all this is that you have a massive amount of time to try to accomplish whatever you want to set out to do. But as you get older, you start running into walls. A lot of them. And you'll be continuously running into walls all the time as you get older and older. And as you realize why these barriers are there for you, your optimism can fade because of it. For example, when I was 18, I thought that by my 40s and 50s, I'll be able to travel in space regularly. Or learn a bunch of stuff and become like a polymath, knowing different subjects in different fields at the time of being 40. I started to learn how realistic that these things can actually be achieved. And disclaimer, it's not easy at all. In the case of space travel, there just hasn't been enough advancement to allow commercial space travel frequently just yet. And with learning multiple different things, your time is taxed, especially if you're trying to create a family and grow your career. Life eventually gets in the way of all the things that you wanted to do when you're 18. But I will say, if you're young and listening to me, try to hold on to that optimistic nature for as long as you can. This is because at the end of the day, our lives runs on optimism. If we have something optimistic to look forward to, we'll be able to push our lives forward. If not, we get stuck in a rut. So be aware as you get older, optimism may fade, but try to hold on to it as much as you can for as long as you can. Number 2, old people are right sometimes. When I was younger, I was always skeptical of older people that told me their advice. I didn't think I needed to listen to them. I would casually discount them because they didn't understand my situation and how I grew up. But as a person firmly in their mid-30s, I can completely understand the younger generation's need to not listen and older generation's need to tell advice. Because now I'm able to tell people in their 20s my advice and I can see the skepticism in their eyes. I basically realized that listening to sage old wisdom is okay from time to time. They might be right. I totally think that in my 20s, my general distrust of older people was groupthink. I didn't really have a particular experience in where I didn't trust elders, but generally the generation did not trust older people. Lots of people at the time just generally thought that older people couldn't learn tech or computers and their advice wasn't good. But that at the end of the day isn't a perfect metric because there are a lot of sage wisdom that doesn't require technology. So I've learned that some of the advice that I ignored were to my detriment at times in my past. Now that I'm 35, I'm more receptive to older people's advice and sage wisdom. The key now is I listen to it and filter it with my own experience, so I take the best advice from other people. I don't just listen to advice and take it blindly. I look at myself and see whether it applies to me. If you're younger and have a similar distrust of older people giving you advice, then I would suggest you use my method. Listen to their advice and apply your own experience to it and see if it works for you. So learn from old people whenever you can. It might save you from making a mistake in the future. Number 3, people be too serious. Whether it's because of greater responsibility or a general move away from silliness, old people are just too serious. I noticed that in the company that I keep, that as we generally progress in age, we've become less silly and prone to more serious conversations. Not that I think that it is a bad thing to be more serious as you age, but I think there needs to be some balance. But as we age, we definitely want to keep in mind how joyful, how free, and how silly we can become at times. Not only can this help us with our mood, but it can also reduce stress overall as well. I can recall many times when I was younger and sillier, not being bogged down with the constant seriousness and stress of my life. I would not take many things so seriously, and I'd be okay with whatever outcomes that came of it. As a suggestion, I would keep a journal of things that make me joyful, free, and silly throughout my day. And remind myself to experience these emotions from time to time so I can reroute myself into my younger, more vibrant self. Because life can be too serious from time to time, as the last few years have shown us. We need that pressure relief valve of silliness and being joyful. So don't take life too serious as you age and have more fun along the way. Number 4, life changes, adapt to it. Life is rarely linear. Most of the times it's twists and turns, and sometimes you might even go backwards for a while. Embrace the path of your life and change and adapt along the way as necessary. When changes happen to your life, the key is to not resist against it and to change and adapt along with it. This affected me greatly because I had a life plan when I was in my early 20s and I wanted to hit all my milestones. But unfortunately, even as early as my mid-20s, my life goals and plans that I had set out started breaking down. I wasn't on my path of getting promoted early, finding a wife, and having an amazing career at the time. And I realized that all the things that I had laid out needed a lot of time and dedication to complete. The lesson is life cannot be predicted and planned. You have to go with the flow. Certainly you can create broad plans and try to hit your milestones, but don't ever put a date to them unless you really mean it. Because anything in life can have the opportunity to derail it or change course abruptly. You just have to make the best of it and go along with whatever changes and adapt to it in life. I always hate the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? As you can see in the last couple of years, there's no way you can tell where you're going to be in 5 years from now. You can have general guidelines, but there's no way you can accurately predict where you're going to end up in 5 years. Because now the world is changing faster than ever, and technology is changing where we're going to be in 5 years. Adaptation to whatever comes our way is now the key to our survival and future progress. So like I learned in my early 20s, life circumstances can change at any time. You must be willing to adapt along the way. And number 5, your future is whatever you make of it, so make it a good one. This is a really good Back to the Future quote that I try to live my life in accordance to it. Your future is not set in stone. You can change it at any time. You just need the persistence and patience to see it through. When I was 18, I had a grand vision of my life and I knew exactly what I wanted to do at 35. I didn't make most of those dreams happen, but it's okay because my life changed and my circumstances changed. There were many things that I didn't get a chance to do, like being financially free, getting a PhD, or having an awesome body. I don't regret not doing those things because I still have time left to accomplish them if I wanted to. There are some people that I know that still cling to their old visions of their future lives from when they were a child. And they don't update the dream that they had for themselves based on life circumstances or changing conditions. They believe that if they don't hit their original goals, they're never going to be happy because that's what they wanted as a child. But I think that if you hold on to the past too much, you can cloud or disrupt your future. And you might miss out on the great opportunities that are in front of you in the present. I recommend that if you're struggling with your dream or future, take a good hard look at those things and see if they apply to you currently. Are you still interested in pursuing your dreams as a child? Does it still suit you after all this time? Maybe there's just another path in life that you can take. So just be aware that we have the ability to change our lives at any moment. Our future is not set in stone. There is no prescribed path to follow. It's whatever you come up with that makes sense to you. So turn your future into whatever you truly wish for. So here are my general thoughts on being 35. Being 35 is really close to being middle-aged, and I do worry about my midlife crisis and what that will bring to me. And if I do have one in the near future, how will I react to it? Every year that I get older, there's more emotional, physical, and mental baggage along the way. Your life experience stacks up, and so does the wear and tear from it. Things that I can still do at 35, I might not be able to do when I'm 45. I just have to take it day by day and not worry about the things that might or might not happen to me in the future. And it's also silly at 35, but I do start to think about how mortal we actually are. I have known people from my high school that have already died, and I don't think that they will be the last. As I get older, there will be more and more people from my high school that just naturally dies. And as I'm aware of my own mortality, I have to take much better care of my body as I age. And it also goes for my mind as well. I have to keep it sharp. The better I keep my mind and body in shape as I age, the better I'm able to handle the difficulties that will come future down the line. I know for certain that health-related issues will crop up over time, so I have to stay ahead of the game. So those are my thoughts on being a very mortal millennial. No one has a choice to get older. We just do. We have to embrace the change that comes because of it. As I've matured these past couple of years, I've learned lessons that my younger self just couldn't take in. And this is because lack of maturity, ignorance, or unrefined skills at the time. But as I've grown older and wiser, I've taken more lessons learned to heart, and I've found keys to my success of being an old millennial. And these keys are to hold on to your optimism, don't be so serious, and adapt to change as best as you can. With these keys in mind, you'll be able to hold out to at least 35 years old. At least it did with me. So thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment down below on what are your thoughts on aging, and has it been a great experience for you? And I'll see you next time.